Hello everyone, welcome back to Morgan Hasn't Seen for our second episode in the Nannies Know Best series. Jeannine, I know this is a particular movie you have been very excited for me to see. Last week you called this definitely the most Morgan movie of the Nannies Know Best series. And I don't think you were wrong at all. After having watched it, it is delightfully dark, but maybe not quite as dark as I feel like it should have gone. I feel like I wanted maybe a little bit more intense violence to this movie, to be perfectly honest with you. But it is certainly darkly thrilling, psychologically twisted, and the exact kind of completely unhinged character that you just kind of love to hate, don't you? This kind of person. Completely different genre to what opened our Nannies Know Best series last week, which was Uptown Girls from 2003 with Brittany Murphy. But we have The Hand That Rocks the Cradle this week. It's 1992. I feel like we're in very much the realm of Michael Douglas's erotic thriller mentality with this movie, but we don't quite get the Michael Douglas level, I think, of absolute stress and complete chaotic violence. I think that those movies do give us. But we're in the same vein. We're in the same style. We're in the same kind of
90s thrillers are
pot.
90s thrillers are definitely a breed of their own. They're thoroughly entertaining. They go to kind of those crazy extremes. And so it's a fun little pocket of time that I don't think people really think about all that much. So
Oh, they're definitely, they're definitely a defined era of its own genre. It was reminding me as well of The Crush with Alicia Silverstone in terms of its attitude and its kind of its darkness. But it's almost subtle darkness until it gets really, really crazy. That was definitely what The Hand That Rocks the Cradle was giving for me. Why did you just have to put this into this series, Jeannine? And why were you so excited about this particular movie?
Well, I mean, as I said last week, I do like when I curate a series that has a similar theme of films, but they all kind of are in different genres. So this, last week being more of like a dramedy. And so now we're getting into the same concept of a nanny, but it's much darker. It's a thriller. It leans into a bit of horror aspects in terms of how extreme this character gets. Rebecca De Mornay is giving an incredible performance. And I think the 90s always as well for me is an era that I do like to really focus on introducing you to, because that's a big kind of blank spot for you. So over the years,
even 300 plus episodes later,
I'm still trying to shove some 90s into your repertoire. So whenever I can do that, I'm definitely going to take the opportunity. So just wanting to kind of mix up the genres in this series and throw some more 90s at you and give you a film in this series that I did feel like was going to be up your alley in terms of kind of your style of film that you like. So
well, I like that. I mean, what are your feelings on The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, though? Is it one that you are particularly fond of? You would have seen far too early as a child or something like that? And
definitely.
Became attached to it?
Yes, I mean, I think thrillers has always been a genre I've enjoyed. It was kind of my ease into horror before I became a horror fan. I always found myself entertained by thrillers, and it's just thoroughly entertaining just how kind of crazy it gets. And Rebecca De Mornay as Peyton in this film, and just the extreme she goes to, and the frustration you feel. You feel the frustration of what her character's doing and her plotting and the tension that builds. You feel it all. So I'm always really entertained by this movie.
You do, because, obviously, you have to almost keep reminding yourself while you're watching this movie that Rebecca De Mornay is doing all this for a really terrible reason as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a justifiable reason as to why she wants vengeance
Yeah, it's
on this
justifiable in her
person.
mind, but
It's justifiable in
rationally,
her mind, sure, but it doesn't make any sense to
no.
anybody else with any
Yeah.
sort of rational mind at all.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the fascinating thing about it. That's probably the darkest element of it, because okay, here we also have a movie that certainly doesn't shy away from dealing and depicting and exploring some pretty grim subject matter
Yeah.
at times, you know, of assault and molestation and things like that. It doesn't hold back from
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But why Rebecca De Mornay feels like she needs to go on a vendetta against the Annabella Sciorra and her
Mhm.
family in this movie is totally victim blaming.
Yeah.
It comes from that mentality,
Yeah.
because Annabella Sciorra was one of Rebecca De Mornay's husband's victims,
Yeah.
but she was also a patient of his. He
Yeah.
was a doctor, he was a gynecologist who assaulted women
Yeah,
through
and
his practice.
yes, she, we'll get into kind of more of the story, but yeah, she was the first person to kind of step forward and say something about, his assault of her, which prompted more women to come forward, ruining this
Yeah.
man's career. And she, and that leads to her downfall, Peyton's downfall. And so she blames it on the first woman who kind of set all of this in motion. So she's
Not
like,
blame it on her husband who was
who was
doing all
doing
this
these
horrific
terrible things.
stuff in the
No, she
first
blames
place.
it on this woman who was the first to come forward and basically says, you took everything from me, so now I'm going to take your life. I'm going to take everything from you. I'm going to take your family and make it mine because you took that away from me.
Yes, which, okay, I mean, that's a fairly typical idea of revenge plots and revenge kind of arcs in
Yeah.
movies. You took everything from me, so I'm going to take everything from you. That's pretty straightforward, but it is the reason behind it. And it's, yes, okay, the number one reason of you forced my husband to shoot himself after all this came out
Yeah.
about him. You ruined my financial life because they were obviously very, very wealthy. He was a
Yeah.
very, very wealthy doctor living in this
Yeah.
ridiculously lavish house and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they were together. So you ruined all that for me as well. But at the same time, it goes even deeper, because when all this comes out about her husband, she is pregnant and then ends up miscarrying
Yeah. Has a
because of
hysterectomy.
it
Yeah.
has a hysterectomy because of the
The
stress
stress
of
of
it,
it all. Yeah.
which is obviously horrific as well. Like, from a
Yes.
personal point, is horrific that that's happened as well. But she uses that to then claim Annabella Sciorra's family as
Yeah.
her own by,
Yes.
the climax of the movie. And it gets very, very twisted and
Yeah.
very, very I'm your mother now kind of energy.
Yes.
Come and be with your real mummy, me, not your actual mother.
Yes. Yeah, and so I like that she's not, like, trying to get what I like, story-wise, I think it's interesting that she's not trying to get back at this whole family, she's trying to get back at this whole woman, and not just get back at her, but take her place. Because it could have just
Very
made it a
much
straight
so.
revenge that she's just trying to ruin this woman's life or kill her or whatever. She could have
Yeah.
done that. She had plenty of opportunities to just kill this woman and get away with it, right? But the fact that she is methodical about it, she's trying to turn her allies against her, she's trying to make her look crazy, she's trying to, break her down before she gets her out, and then wants to slide herself in that slot. So I like that it's more methodical than just a straight up kind of revenge.
Yeah, that's
her
what makes it
yeah,
much darker. That's what
yeah,
makes it much more of a twisted manipulation,
yeah,
and makes it more of a psychological thriller and not just like a revenge horror
yeah,
that it could have been
yeah,
had Rebecca De Mornay just been kind of stalking that family for most of the movie
yeah,
to eventually break in and murder them all. It would have still felt twisted. It would have still
yeah,
felt messed up, because your motivation is only justified to you. It's not
Yeah.
justified to anybody else.
Yeah.
We're not there sat on Rebecca De Mornay's side at all for this
Yeah.
entire movie.
Yeah.
But the fact it's so slow, as you say, it's so methodical, it's
Mhm.
so well thought out and sinister and
Yeah.
clever in many ways. Real smart manipulation from her for this horrific reason. You're sat there watching it, being deeply frustrated, I think, at a lot of characters' kind of willingness to believe Rebecca De Mornay a lot of the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
in this movie, because we, the audience, this is the exact kind of movie where we, the audience, know everything that's going on, and the characters don't. You
Yeah.
know,
So Claire does look like she's forgetful and she's crazy and all these different things to people, or she's being paranoid and that kind of thing. So yeah, the way she kind of built up this plan to gradually break this woman down is really killing her slowly.
yeah,
And that just plays into just how dark and twisted and methodical this woman is, and probably how long she thought about this, because it feels like there's a clear plan from the start from her. So
yeah. And it's the different angles she takes.
yeah.
You know, she tries getting in, obviously, with Annabella Sciorra's new baby, that her like
Yeah.
5-year-old daughter,
Yes.
even her husband at
Husband.
a certain
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
it's very it's very frustrating,
Yeah.
and it's very dark.
Because you
And
see, like, some of her, or a lot of her plans are working. Like, people are
they
believing
are,
it.
they really
You
are.
know.
You're left there wondering how far it will eventually go,
Yeah.
until you hope it will be satisfyingly kind of,
Yeah.
you know, come to an end in the destruction of this horrible woman.
Yeah. And
But
it starts. Sorry.
no, you just hope it will get there, but it
Yeah.
is just it keeps you frustrated in not exactly knowing that it will end up that
Yeah.
way,
Yes.
thinking that it really might end up in a situation of complete replacement of,
Yeah.
you know, of Claire by
Peyton.
Peyton.
Yeah, because she starts really small. She, like, is doing little things. Oh, pretending that she saved the baby from Claire's earring, so Claire looks bad, but in a really small way, you know.
Yes. A
Uh,
bit
uh,
negligent and that kind of stuff to begin with. Because
yes.
obviously, premise wise,
Yeah.
she simply pretends to be a nanny. That's where the whole nanny point of this movie
Yes.
comes from. Peyton pretends to be a nanny in order to infiltrate the
This
family,
family. Yeah.
because they need a nanny. They're actively looking for a nanny. And this is a thing as well. I mean, she comes with no references, no prior, you know, actual official
I think she kind of does
documentation,
make up.
no agency. She
Yeah.
makes it up, but
Yeah.
there's no actual paperwork to show for it. So why are you just thinking, oh yeah, I get a good vibe from her, let's hire her on the spot and have her live with us? Why
Yes.
would you just do that?
Yeah, because that's also how she gets in as well, I think, with the earring thing. She saves the baby, and so, because I think that, after they have that initial interview, they ask her to stay for dinner, and then she kind of
And
plays
they
with
do, yes.
she plays with the, I saved the baby from your earring, Claire, which was something she told her earlier, because Claire's earring fell out, and she's like, oh, your earring, I found it on the floor. Oh, Michael's been telling me to get that earring fixed. She sees Claire's
Mm,
earring fall out again, and then she picks it up and holds on to it, and then later acts like she got it out of the baby's mouth. So,
yes.
yeah. So now she's in because she saved their baby. She's super nice and sweet. So they think, okay, she's perfect. She's a perfect fit for our family. Yeah.
I just really enjoyed how, as soon as the movie gripped you tight, it did not let you go.
Yeah.
It only grew its grip tighter, you know, that
Yes.
only became tighter. It only became more intense. There was no relief to this movie
Yeah.
whatsoever until the climax of the movie.
Yeah.
It
It
is
builds and builds.
pure tension
Yeah.
and pure great crescendo tension. You know, there's no little downturn. There's no ebb and flow. There's no waves of it. It is just a straight line upwards the entire time, slowly but surely. And I adore these kind of psychological thrillers that are like that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking of something like The Stepfather as well that we did on this show. It's very similar to that in a let's start off looking a bit nice. Maybe there's actually something nice to this. We know there's not. We know there's something amiss. We know there's something dodgy going on.
Yeah.
But the family, it all seems to go well. And bit by bit, you just chip away and chip away and chip away.
And somebody
until
starts
it
to
all
notice
explodes out at you.
Yes, because like at a certain point, Claire's like, things started getting weird when Peyton arrived, kind of thing.
Yes.
So there is a character who kind of picks up on it. I think, you know, her best friend starts picking up on it and those kinds of things. So yeah, it's that build to see if anyone's going to notice, if anyone's going to kind of pick up on what's happening, because we know everything that's happening. So yeah, I love that kind of build like that the thrillers do. But just to kind of get into the plot of this movie. So yeah, we open kind of introducing this family. We kind of get to see the start of their day, them waking up, their daughter, Claire's pregnant, you know, she's making breakfast, and then we get a strange man wandering around in their yard, and you know, he knocks on the door. He doesn't get an answer, so he kind of is wandering around the yard. He scares Claire. She's like, who is this man? Michael, her husband, goes out to check, and it turns out his name is Solomon, and it's Ernie Hudson, and he's like a bit of a kind of special needs man. He's from the Better Day Society that you know, puts people, you know, with mental disabilities in the kind of the workforce, and they'll go and kind of do some volunteer work for people. And so Claire, you know, she is a stay-at-home mom. We kind of get the sense, and she's kind of wants to get back into just doing more like at this greenhouse that she used to work at and do kind of just more volunteer things and that kind of stuff. So that's why she's looking for a nanny. And you know, she obviously, like, it seems like somebody who wants to kind of do stuff for the community and that kind of thing. So she participates in this association's program to hire special needs people for volunteer work. So we meet Solomon, and he gets on with the family really well. Emma, their daughter, seems to really like him, and he's making this plan to build a fence for them. So
yeah, he's very good natured, very kind of big hearted,
silly,
kind of silly. Somewhat, I mean, there's I think there's an argument to be had that there's a certain potentially negative stereotype to the Solomon character, but you know, in terms of a, you know, simple kind of look, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Kind of lug of a man, kind of just walking around. You know, like a gentle giant, but in the negative sense, almost. Who's a bit simple-minded,
like a Lenny from Of Mice and Men kind of thing.
Exactly, that kind of character, which I don't think always comes across as a great kind of stereotype, but in this movie, I think he's presented with the best of intentions. And I think he's you know, the initiative, I suppose, that you were talking about is a great thing. You know, this is something that should be happening for people with mental disabilities, you know, having this willingness and having this push into the workforce in a kind of light way that suits their needs and suits everybody's needs. It's a great thing. I don't necessarily think it always came across as particularly PC, shall we say?
Yes, and sensitive to that kind of, you know, those people. But I think, like you said, I think the intentions were noble in terms of depicting.
They were, and it makes it not a big issue. I just felt like I had to kind of voice that.
Of course. And I think Ernie Hudson, he's also, you know, playing it with the best of intentions. I don't think he's trying to mock anybody or make fun of anybody or do a caricature of somebody with special needs.
No, it's very genuine, and it helps that he's obviously a character who is entirely a positive force to this movie as well.
Yes.
Even though at times he's manipulated to not necessarily look that way.
Yes, and so him also kind of being this gentle giant figure, I think it's meant to be this interesting juxtaposition to maybe speak to how scary Peyton is, and to also kind of
Yeah.
just show, the family's ability to kind of trust someone in their home, in their life, kind of like that. So then, they're obviously trusting Solomon to now be a part of, their day to day and be in their house and play with their daughter and that whole kind of thing. So it speaks to how easily they trust Peyton when she comes into play as well. So I think they wanted to have that kind of juxtaposition, having the Solomon character there as well. And obviously he plays into the finale, I think, in a great way in terms of how
He
they
does.
use him.
He
And it
does. He
kind of
really
is a
he
little,
really turns up good.
yeah, and it is like a callback to something that happens earlier in the film. So Solomon, he's there, he sees the baby's kind of struggling. He tries to go pick up the baby because the baby's crying, and Claire tells him, "Well, Solomon, remember what the home said, it's safer if you don't handle the baby," and that kind of thing. And even Em, I think, asks her about that, like, what makes Solomon different. And I like how she kind of explains it to him that, Solomon is
Yeah.
special, but he's just a little bit different, and that kind of thing. So, I like seeing like the idea of this program that they present in the film, that it's like showing that special needs people are very capable people. Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, so then Claire, she's going to go see a new doctor. This is her first time seeing him. He's highly recommended, Dr. Mott. And he's going to do an exam. She is a few months from, I think, her a few months along. Maybe she looks maybe like 5, 6 months maybe.
Yeah, I would say
um
so.
yeah, and so he's telling her they're gonna do a pelvic exam, and she's, like, questioning it because she knows, like, "Oh, at this amount of months, I thought, we didn't need to do pelvic exams anymore." And he says, "Oh, it's fairly routine. I'm just gonna check, and then you probably won't need another one, until, like,
Yeah.
later, whatever." So I like that they kind of set up that, like, she's telling us that, what she's heard from her doctors is that this isn't normal. But he's, you're trusting your doctor. He's saying it's normal, okay.
This
So
is
she
why
but
so many doctors can get away with being either creepy people or
yeah, because you don't
dangerous
know.
criminals.
Yeah, because you don't know. And so he does a breast exam, and the way he's doing it, like, she plays it so well because we're reading her face, and obviously women have been through these things before.
Mm.
And so when it doesn't feel normal, like, you can sense that. So he's, like, holding a little too long, he's lingering a little too long, and her expression starts to shift a little bit, like this doesn't feel right to her, but she
Yes.
doesn't wanna think that she's maybe, thinking too much into it at first.
I
So
mean, it's a
after he
really wonderful, kind of vulnerable performance that
Yeah.
Annabelle Sciorra is giving in the
Yes.
whole movie. It's
Yeah.
so raw, it
Yeah.
feels, and very, very kind of super emotional, super honestly emotional
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
performance. It was very, very impressed, and it's very, very different to what De Mornay is doing as well. Because what
Yeah.
Rebecca De Mornay is doing is entirely exaggerated at times and
Yes.
so over the top. Supposed to be like that, that works for the movie that she is like that.
Yeah.
Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction, levels
Yes.
of absolute insanity we're dealing with here.
Yes, but she's doing it on both spectrums. She's playing this
Absolutely.
overly nice, loving person, and all of that is a facade that she's playing into on one end, and then when she's alone, when she's plotting, the crazy extreme of her on the other end. So she has to
Yeah.
play both sides of that spectrum of overly sugary sweet in front of this family and overly crazy when she's in her plotting phases. So
Yeah.
yeah, Annabella Sciorra is doing a really great job here, kind of selling the unsureness that she's feeling in this moment of him kind of doing this breast exam. So then, he's like, okay, we're doing the pelvic, and even how he like spreads her legs feels
Yes,
kind
it's
of
terrible.
weird.
It's very, very
Yes.
uncomfortable.
He puts a glove on so she can see that he puts a glove on, and then as soon as his hand lowers out of her sight, he takes the glove off,
Mm,
puts it in his
mm.
pocket, and then proceeds to do the pelvic exam. And he's like looking off, like into the distance, like spacing out, and he like moves the gown off of her and is like feeling on her stomach, while he's doing the
It's
pelvic
horrific.
exam. And yes, and I don't think I remembered it being as like, uh showing it as much as like for you to read it as it needs to be read. I don't remember it being as
Yeah.
explicit as that. And like it could have been a lot worse, I think. I think they do a good job of like getting across the point, but
Yeah, I mean,
you
I
really
don't think it's
Mhm.
graphic, but it's
No.
explicit.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you. And you can tell she's just like panicking on the table. You can see tears welling up in her eyes. She's just incredibly uncomfortable. And then she kind of storms out, and the lady at the desk is like, "Oh, come back. You have to make your second appointment." And she just ignores it and goes. She
Yeah.
starts breathing heavy, and we learn that she has, serious asthma. And so the distress of the situation causes her to go into an asthma attack. And so she takes her inhaler.
Yeah.
She goes home. She's panicked. She doesn't know what to do. And then her husband, Michael, comes home. She runs into his arms and kind of tells him everything. And I love how supportive Michael is in this moment. She's
In the
feeling like,
whole movie, I mean,
yes,
he
he's
is
pretty
such a
great.
stand-up husband.
Yes. Um, she is feeling like, I don't want to get anyone in trouble. Maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe, I just thought about it. I'm overthinking it too much. And he's like, in the moment, did you feel like you were overthinking it? Do you feel like, when you were in it, did it feel wrong to you? And she says, yes. And he's like, then you need to report it. And he's kind of telling her too, like, you're not just reporting this for you, you're reporting it so this doesn't happen to anybody else. So I
Exactly.
love that way of thinking that he gives her as well, because she's afraid to say something. Like she doesn't want to because she's just thinks she might be making too much of it. But I love
Yeah.
him kind of really imploring her to do it. That if she felt weird about it, because I think other husbands might be like, "We'll do whatever you want, honey. Like if you don't want to say
Yeah.
anything, you don't have to say anything." But clearly we saw it. It's clear that's what was going on. And so I love that he kind of takes her back to that moment. Trust yourself, trust your gut. If you felt like it was wrong, say something. We don't want this happening to anybody else. So
Yeah, and
love
we
love his
obviously
support in this moment here. And
absolutely, and
yeah.
like I said, I love his support in the whole
Mhm.
movie. When it just
Yeah.
gets worse and worse, he's always on Claire's side. He
Yes.
never ever falters into thinking that actually anything that Peyton is saying or trying
Yeah.
to manipulate, he never really believes any of it fully,
Yes,
does
and
he?
even when there are moments where Claire is made to look bad, he's more concerned about Claire than upset with her.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
because he notices it's
Absolutely.
not like her.
And he
So,
knows
yeah,
she's obviously suffering with the very serious asthma. We see Peyton play on and
a lot,
play
yeah.
with an
Mhm.
awful lot and kind of bring on these asthma attacks to
Yeah.
render her useless,
Yes.
at these certain points. There's a point later on in the movie where Claire literally almost dies from an asthma attack
Yes.
that has been brought on by Peyton's manipulation of the whole
Yes.
situation. We
Yes.
obviously see from that beginning that Claire comes out, tells the news, tells everybody, tells the police, and it all comes out about Dr. Mott. Other women step
Have
up.
come
We,
forward. Yeah,
yes,
and Claire's not even suing. She just came forward
no, she just
information
told. She just came forward. She just told
with her
the
story. Yeah.
story. Dr. Mott then is the biggest coward of all cowards. Shoots himself
Yeah.
and leaves Peyton, obviously, essentially destitute at this point.
Yeah, because
But
they're not gonna pay her insurance because it was a
no,
self-inflicted death that her husband
which
does.
is where all this
Yes.
naturally comes
And
from.
it's
But you should be upset with your horrible,
husband
creepy, criminal
for
husband.
yeah, for the gross things he was doing, because when he does it, like, we see him listening to the news report of, like, his people suing him, his practice in shambles, his career over, all of these different things, and then, yeah, we hear the gun go off. Then we see her in this very cold kind of lawyer's office, her kind of
Yes.
alone on one end of the table and them all kind of facing her, telling her, so we can't pay you any money because self-inflicted gunshot wound, this whole kind of thing. And you could stay in your house until you have your baby, but after that you're gonna have to leave. So now she's like learning, she's has no money, she's homeless, she's
Yeah.
lost her husband. All she has is this baby now. As she walks out, we already kind of get this cold demeanor from her. She's not crying, she's not upset, she's just kind of, she looks angry. Even
She's
when,
vacant.
yes, and somebody like asks, "Can we help you with something?" and she doesn't even answer. She just gives the guy this death stare. So as she gets up to walk out, she's trying to hold her head high, but she's totally kind of in this fugue state. And, she collapses and falls on her stomach. We see her on a gurney, panicking
Yeah.
about her baby. And then we cut to a few days later, some nurses
Loses the
talking.
baby.
Yes, talking. She hasn't eaten in days. She lost her baby, has had to have a hysterectomy. She refuses to eat, kind of thing. So then we see her, obsessively watching this news report talking about Claire, the woman who came forward first, who implicated her husband in all of this. So this is where we're kind of assuming the plan has begun a plot.
Yes. Yeah, because the whole movie then takes place 6 months after.
Yes. So Claire now has had her baby.
Claire's baby,
Has
is
been
a
born
few
now.
months old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very new baby at this point, but
Yeah.
obviously this time has passed for Peyton to formulate her grand scheme
Yeah.
and enact it in the slow but horrific way she does enact it in. And she tries, chipping away, as we said, at the various people surrounding Claire
Yeah.
first, doesn't she? She kind of starts a little bit with Solomon, because Solomon's still there. Solomon's
Yeah, which is
helping
really
out around
sweet
the
because,
garden, around the house.
yeah, because Emma's
He's
like, "Well, once
clearly
once Solomon's done painting the trim, is he gonna leave?" And Dad's like, "No, we're just gonna find something else for Solomon to do so we can keep him
yeah.
around." And the daughter's like, "Yay, Solomon!" So,
Yeah, because
um,
he's a great friend to the daughter. He's
yeah,
a really, he's a good guy to have around. He does the jobs
yeah,
well that he's set to do.
yeah.
Why would you not want just this pleasant guy around?
Around, yes, exactly. You're helping out the community and this whole kind of thing with this
Yeah.
program and all this kind of thing. So,
It's charitable and it helps you.
exactly. And so, Peyton's introduction is, I think Claire, forgot something for Emma as she's on the school bus, her jacket or something. And so she's trying to chase after the bus, and somebody stops the bus for her. She's able to give Emma her lunch and her jacket. And then we
Yeah.
see it was Peyton who stopped the bus for her. So already kind of laying the groundwork. Oh my gosh, this lady's so helpful. Look what she did for me. Then she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm looking for, this family. Oh, that's me." And so this is when we kind of meet, the interview. She seems really sweet, the whole thing with the earring. They invite her to dinner and they decide right then and there we're going to hire her. So she's like a live-in, so she's like living in their house with them. And
Well,
this is
exactly.
when,
See, this is the thing as well. Living nannies, you can either have, Peyton from The Hand That Rocks the Cradle or Maria von Trapp. Which one would you want? There's
Exactly.
no in between. It's either
No.
one or the other.
Yes.
She's
Yes.
almost reminding me of, I forget her name, very annoyingly, the nanny from The Omen.
Oh,
Who's just utter Satanist, loves
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Damien so
Oh,
much,
yes. Yes.
despises Gregory Peck,
Yes.
and is just so demonic. He's like
Exactly.
that. You either have this or you have Maria von
Yeah,
Trapp, and
yeah,
there's
those
no
are
in
no
between.
happy medium. Yeah, it's one or the other. And I think, we see her kind of start with Joe. So we see kind of her alarm go off at a weird early time. And then we're like, what is she doing? She goes
Yeah.
upstairs and she goes into Joe's room and she starts breastfeeding him.
Now, would you breastfeed somebody else's child? I wouldn't personally.
No.
I'm not physically and biologically capable of doing that,
No,
but I wouldn't do that.
this isn't Hereditary where grandma is breastfeeding the
Oh
babies.
God, I forgot about that.
Um,
yes.
Yes. So then when Claire goes to kind of have that bonding feeding time with Joe, he doesn't want to feed from her. He doesn't want to eat because he's already full because Peyton just fed him.
Exactly. Not
So
not that anybody else knows this, obviously. She's
no.
very concerned. This is something.
Yes.
Is everything okay with Joe? You know, have you noticed
Yeah.
anything? No, I've not noticed anything at all. You
Yeah.
creepy weirdo.
Yes. So, this is kind of a pattern that's happening. She sets an alarm to go feed Joe when Claire isn't around, so that when she goes to feed him, he won't eat. And I think Claire even brings it up with her doctor because she tells her husband, and he's like, "Well, did you talk to the doctor?" She's like, "Yeah." She said, "As
Yeah.
long as he's gaining weight, he's fine. Don't worry about it." So,
See,
yeah,
this is the stunningly interesting thing about this particular movie as well, though, is I've said it myself through this episode, simply calling Peyton a creepy weirdo.
yeah,
Yet there's an element, there's a layer of this movie where you actually understand that she must just be severely traumatized by the whole
yeah,
situation.
yes,
She's found out her husband is an assaulter
yeah,
and she's lost her own baby. Of course she's gonna go a bit mad. Of
yes.
course she's going to
Her
go a bit
livelihood, her
crazy.
home,
Her
everything.
livelihood,
Yeah,
her home, obviously. And I think a lot of the time in the movie, you forget that about her
yeah,
until you get those more intimate scenes of her
yeah.
with Joe the baby, or later on with Emma as well, where it's all kind of "I'll be your mummy now" situation, where you
Yes, yeah,
actually realize that she did lose a baby, and
yeah.
that is her husband's fault. That is not
Yes,
anything she did or
it's
brought on.
yes, and, like,
It's
obviously she's
devastating for her at that point. It's
yeah,
it's a level of humanity that the movie does give to Peyton that makes it that much more impactful,
yeah.
because there's little inklings of you
You
actually
kinda
understanding
understand why she
that,
believes this the way she does. Yeah,
yeah, that somebody who so very much wants to be a mother would go to this horrific extreme
yeah,
to do that, although it's never
yeah.
gonna work that way. In
No,
her
but
mind, it will,
it
but
will.
we realise it isn't, but it's
Yes,
that kind of layers that I think really,
open
really
this
kind of
up.
amplify this movie, really,
Yeah,
really bring it to that next level,
yeah.
and make me fond of it even more.
Yeah, and remember how Peyton talked to Claire about her husband. She says, "My husband was murdered." And so she
Yeah.
in Claire simply speaking her truth of what happened to her makes her the person who killed her husband, not her husband killing himself. Um, and she and when she says that, you don't think this is just some made up thing as part of her facade backstory. You read it as this is how she really believes the scenario is. She believes
Absolutely.
Claire is the person who murdered her husband because of her coming forward.
That is
Um,
her truth.
yes,
It is an odd truth. It is a
yeah,
wrong truth, but you have to accept it is her truth. You have
mhm,
to accept that is
yes,
her opinion. And opinions can never be wrong because they are opinions.
exactly,
So
yeah.
that's the tough thing.
Yes. So then, now she has Joe there, wanting to breastfeed on her and this whole kind of thing. And then she moves on to Emma and endearing herself to her. So when they go out, Emma's in her bed with her. She's letting her watch the scary movies that her mommy won't let her watch. She
Yes, I
tells
think
her,
she's watching White Zombie from 1932 with Bela Lugosi, as far as I could tell. That's what the
yeah.
movie was.
She's like, she's
I would recognise that weird goatee from Bela Lugosi anywhere,
okay.
and
Yeah, I
with
didn't
his
know what it
weird
was.
bushy
And I'm like,
eyebrows.
okay,
I'm
but
sure it's White Zombie.
she's watching some classic stuff, so,
She
appreciate
is.
okay, Peyton,
You have got to
despite
appreciate
everything
that.
else, you appreciate the classics.
She
Um,
likes some nice old horror.
yes, and she makes sure Emma knows about secrets, and they kind of have their secret club. So, promise
Yes.
not to tell mommy that we watched this movie, and then she shares a secret with her about this boy who's been bullying her. And so when Emma's, on the playground, she comes over there, she has Emma point out the boy, and we see him mid-bullying somebody. She grabs this kid, twists his arm, and curses him out and says, like, she will effing kill him if he messes with Emma again.
It's
And
a
the kid
little bit intense, but you know, I kind of get it. We should be dealing with bullies in this harsh manner, admittedly.
I don't know about
would
this part.
I
I
would
would
do
not.
this.
You would
Would you not do
grab
that?
you would grab the arm of somebody else's 5-year-old child and tell them you're gonna effing
I mean,
murder
that's
them.
true. I forgot he was 5. I did forget he was 5
Yeah.
and not like 10. If they're 10, yeah, I'm willing to do that.
So yes,
100%.
she threatens the life of this little boy who is
Children
bullying Emma.
need shame. That's why
Yeah.
that's why people grow up to be the ridiculous generation they are now, because they don't have enough shame.
Yes, that is true. That is probably true. Um, but then, and I think she even asks her, well, what did your mom do about this bully? Oh, she tried, but she didn't really do anything. So then, she's putting that comparison in Emma's head as well. And then Emma's
Exactly.
actively sees her handle it. So thus endearing her to Peyton. So laying the
Yes.
groundwork, first Joe, now Emma, now she's on to the husband. And all the while in between all of this, she's trying to make Claire look bad.
Yes.
So Claire's best friend, played by Julianne Moore in this film.
Yes, younger Julianne Moore. I think
Yes.
Julianne Moore, possibly as early as I've ever seen Julianne Moore in anything.
Yes, I mean, I think we saw her in The Fugitive, and like she was in it for a split second because like her role was supposed to be bigger, and then like
Well, that's right. Yes, but even The Fugitives after this, even that's the year after.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen Julianne Moore in anything earlier than 92.
Yes, yeah. So
I don't think so.
So yeah, this is fairly early for her. And so she's like kind of this, hard talking, real estate agent, smoker. And we learned that she grew up with Michael, Claire's husband. They were best friends. They dated for a while, and now they're just all best friends.
She's an odd thing, really, isn't it? I mean, does that happen? I was a high school girlfriend, high school relationship with my current best couple friend.
I think it happens, when you're younger with somebody. And like, I think, when Emma describes it, she says they're like little, when they were little. So I assume maybe like,
okay, maybe preteen.
Yes,
maybe.
and they grew up together and that kind of thing. So, but her and Claire are pretty close, and we established when they
everybody gets along.
Yes, and she gets.
It's just an easy way for Peyton to manipulate the situation by going, oh well, these two used to be, a couple years ago. I wonder what they're doing now. Have you noticed that Michael hasn't been coming home from work on time?
Yeah, he might be with her.
Go
and
away.
And we established the night that Emma and Peyton are watching the horror movie. Claire and Michael have gone out with Julianne Moore and her husband. And
Julianne Moore's husband, by the way, is a creep.
Oh yeah, because he sees Peyton and he's like, oh wow, maybe I should get a nanny like that kind of thing. He says, well, tell me where you're hiring, right? But even this situation is kind of our starts of manipulations. First, we had the earring. Now we have her dress. Claire's getting ready for this dinner to go out. She has this really sexy red dress that Michael bought her. She expresses to Claire, oh, I always feel so sexy and powerful when I wear this dress. She goes into the other room. When she comes out, she puts on the dress and she sees it's got like the perfume oil all over it. Claire can't wear the dress. So now she has to kind of wear a little bit of a frumpier looking dress. She comes down. Michael's like, oh, what happened to the other dress? And so that already kind of puts a little tension in the air because she's like, well, what's wrong with what I'm wearing? He's like, oh, no, nothing. You look great. And she already is just feeling now insecure. So Peyton has set it up for her to not wear the glamorous dress that she feels beautiful and sexy in, the one that Michael got her, but some kind of frumpy or other dress. And Peyton telling, oh no, you look great kind of thing. So we know that Peyton was the one who put oil on her dress so she couldn't wear it. And then even when Julianne Moore, she starts picking up on this because
Julianne Moore's very perceptive. She goes on a little
Yes.
investigative streak in the movie.
Yes, because when she meets Peyton, because Peyton comes down to get some soda water for the dress because she's acting all helpful. Julianne Moore's, oh, poison. You're wearing Claire's perfume. So we know that she touched Claire's perfume. And Julianne Moore picks up on that immediately. So they're all out to dinner. And at this dinner, we establish that Michael only smokes when he's with Julianne Moore. So that comes kind of into play later. And, they're talking about the nanny and kind of like, she's a little attractive and this kind of thing. And Julianne Moore doesn't really get a good vibe off of her. And, having a woman like that in your house, like I could never, kind of attitude. And Julianne Moore gets to say the signature line.
She does, yes.
The hand that rocks
there's a reason.
Is the hand that rules.
Sorry, say the line. Sorry, say the line. Say the line. I got intense.
Yeah, the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world.
Yes, it's a good line. It's from the Bible or something or other. But there's a reason Julianne Moore can't have a nanny like that in her home. It's because her husband is terrible.
Yeah, because he makes a comment. It's like, I think we should have kids. Like literally,
shut up,
kids,
guy.
but he thinks they should. So we can have a hot nanny too. Like, guy, gross.
You were on track to say the signature line of the movie, and I derailed it by being so intensely anti Julianne Moore's husband.
Yes, it's fair though. It's fair. He deserves it.
Well, when you compare him to Michael, and yes, okay, I know Michael looks a little bit like a thin version of Michael McDonald.
A thinner, less brave.
Both called Michael. Oh yes, a younger Michael McDonald, definitely.
Yes,
not current years Michael McDonald.
Yes, and this actor, I believe he's double M's and a Mac as well because he's Matt McCoy. So
Matt McCoy, who I've never seen in anything else in my entire life.
I mean, he's great as Michael. I think I looked at his credits. He's done kind of like other TV shows, Grey's Anatomy, like NCIS kind of shows like that kind of thing.
Who hasn't been on Grey's Anatomy?
Right? So he's been steadily working and appearing in shows.
I was on Grey's Anatomy once.
And every kind of NBC, CBS show, CBS crime cop, whatever show, firehouse show, whatever. So
been on Law and Order as well, and
probably.
CSI.
I would not be surprised. So shout out to Matt McCoy. But yeah, he they go out to the dinner, so we establish the smoking thing, which then comes into play later because and the whole thing with them kind of formally being in a relationship, because then Peyton, this is kind of where she starts to manipulate Michael or kind of, ease into kind of trying to seduce him, which we see him kind of, fall into man mode and like check her out a little bit. But
do you think so? Do you read it as that? Because I actually don't read it as that. I understand why you would, and I know the exact scene you're talking about, but I really view it as him being
confused,
stunned and
like
confused that she would do this when he's not really seen anything to believe that Peyton would be in any way negative for his family until this exact moment.
Yeah, there's a couple scenes. One I didn't read that way, but the first one I kind of did, and it like always surprises me. Like, is that kind of what he's feeling? So after kind of, this whole thing, this is where she sets up the kind of more drama with Julianne Moore and Michael and this whole kind of thing. She goes to his work and goes to his office and says she wants to set up a surprise party for Claire's birthday.
Yes.
And, he's like, oh, that'd be a great idea. And she's like, oh, maybe you should talk to Marlene and see if she wants to help. I would talk to her, but I don't think she likes me, and that whole kind of thing. Obviously kind of trying to make her more sensitive to him, like, oh, I don't want you to feel bad about Marlene. So he's kind of trying to encourage her. She's also looking good to him in terms of like, oh, she wants to plan this nice thing for Claire. How nice. So all of this great kind of like top-notch manipulation. She's hitting all kind of the little check boxes here.
She's been watching Gaslight and getting all the right ideas.
Yes, but she's also kind of talking to him in like this little seductive way. They're like alone in his office and this whole kind of thing. And she's talking really softly and slowly and kind of getting kind of close to him and this kind of thing. So she's setting it up for him to be alone with Marlene to plan this birthday party. And all the while making herself look good for wanting to do this thing for Claire, right? And kind of like flirting with him a little bit. So what kind of had me like, is he really kind of checking her out? It was when she left the office. He goes out of his way to walk out into the hall and like watch her walk away. So and kind of he looks kind of stunned, and we have all his coworkers kind of looking on like, oh, what's going on there, kind of thing. So all of that kind of had me like, is he kind of like checking her out, or is he, just being a guy like, like I don't think I read that like he's gonna do anything or that Peyton's plan is working, because later when she drops some ice all in the kitchen and he goes down there and she's like trying to flirt with him then, and even another time he's out in the rain and he comes in and he has his shirt off and she's drying him off with a towel and all that kind of thing, and her nightgown is all soaked through and this whole kind of thing.
Yes.
He's not stopping her from like drying him off, but he's not, you can tell he's not like, gonna
and he even says at that point, there's only one
woman for me. And obviously crazy Peyton reads it.
Peyton reads it as he means her. Obviously, nobody else reads it that way.
Yes, but this scene when she's doing the birthday party thing, it kind of read to me as like maybe he was checking her out a little bit, and so we're like, so I think we're meant to read it that way, to think that maybe Peyton's plan is working. Because it's,
I think we should mention as well, but I think before we get on into more heightened climactic things about this movie, is the very sad way she manipulates the Solomon situation.
Yes. So Solomon, he's painting the house. He goes up to a ladder and he looks in the window and he sees her breastfeeding Joe and catches her. So he immediately rushes down the ladder. He doesn't know what to do. He's scared. He's confused. And Peyton kind of comes out. He's playing with Emma, and she tells Emma to go inside, and she has him alone, and she kind of like gets him up against the wall. And of course, she corners him. Yes, calls him the R word, gets in his face, tells him, any story, my story will be better. If you try to say anything, my story will be better. So don't you say anything. And Solomon is genuinely scared. And as she kind of walks away, he's like, they're my friends. I won't let you hurt them. They're my friends. I won't let you hurt them. So we think,
he's smart enough to recognize actually what might be going on.
Exactly. But like just a little lip quiver and the fear, like, because she's like intimidating him, and the fact like he's this big old man, and she is crazy enough that it's kind of scaring him. But I like that he, we know that he cares about these people and he's gonna try to protect them if he can. But but he doesn't know how to handle it, so he doesn't say anything. A few days pass, he's still there, he's playing with Emma, and so we think, okay, maybe this threat is all it's gonna be. But then Peyton starts planting the seeds to Claire. He's out there playing with Emma. And she's like, Emma kind of mentioned something to me, and I don't know if I like the way like he touches her, and Claire like doesn't really kind of believe any of this. She's like, no, I've never seen anything. Emma hasn't really said anything, and then she tries to talk to Emma, and she kind of frames it in a way about like secrets. So she thinks I feel like she thinks her mom's talking about the scary movie, and so she doesn't want to say. And so Claire reads her hesitance to tell her something is that she doesn't want to tell her about Solomon. So all of this manipulation of seeds of things that Peyton has peppered in now are having people read situations in a wrong way. And so
it's really, really twisted. And I mean, I wasn't quite sure how she was going to get rid of Solomon,
Yeah.
Peyton. I figured she would have to try and do this
Yeah.
at this point, but I felt it was going to be more on her, more like
Yeah.
Solomon's been watching me in the shower, quote unquote, or
Yeah, making
Solomon's
me
been watching me
uncomfortable.
get
Yeah.
changed. He's been feeling, he's been making me feel very uncomfortable. He's even said a couple of things to me, and that would mean, they would
Yeah.
have serious questions to ask about Solomon. But the fact she puts it onto Emma and then
Emma.
plants underwear
Yes.
in
Into his
Solomon's
cart.
cart,
Yes.
toolbox
Yes. Well, even
is
before that, um, after this
horrific.
after this Peyton thing happens, Michael calls Solomon over that they want to talk to him. So he's kind of like scared, like, oh, what do they want to talk to me about? Oh my gosh. And he's scared.
Yeah,
Maybe Peyton said something to me. I'm gonna be, whatever. And they got him a new bicycle, and it's so sweet. And
yeah,
now, yes, and he's like, you're my friends, and it's really sweet and that whole kind of thing. So then a couple days later, now this is happening, and she asked Claire, she's like, oh, Claire, I need some batteries for something. Maybe Solomon has some batteries in his cart. And Claire's like, okay, I'll go take a look. So she goes and she looks in the cart and she finds a pair of Emma's underwear. And immediately she starts having, asthma attack. Look what this
yeah,
man has done to my daughter. She starts hitting Solomon. And it's this whole thing. And Solomon's so confused. He doesn't know what's going on. She picks up Emma, runs into the house. And then Peyton, while she's holding Joe, just gives Solomon this smug,
yeah.
evil look.
It's horrible.
And then the Better Days home comes and takes Solomon away. But then as we see kind of things escalate in the film, Solomon's following them. He's watching, he's keeping an eye on his bicycle, a few steps back, keeping an eye and trying to protect the family. So I love that we're kind of seeing him, in the glimmers of the background of things. We also see Peyton, make Claire look bad in a way with Michael's proposal. He has to have it delivered at a certain time. She says she'll do it for him.
Thing.
Yes. So she goes to deliver it, but Peyton has taken it out of her bag, ripped it apart. We see her go crazy in a bathroom, tearing up the bathroom, tearing up the proposal. Claire goes to deliver. It's not there. Michael's a bit upset with her. So she's kind of made her look bad.
But all this keeps bringing on Claire's asthma as well, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes. So she has an asthma attack over this.
And worse.
It gets worse and worse. So, now the thing with the birthday party comes up. Michael and Claire, we see them meeting, talking about the birthday party. They're also kind of talking about concern for Claire that, she's maybe not herself in this whole kind of thing. And they're smoking because we've established he only smokes when he's with Julianne Moore. So he comes home kind of late. Claire's like, she's already kind of on edge about everything, that all these weird things that have been happening, Solomon, all this stuff. And Emma's upset with her because she blames her mom for Solomon having to go away. She doesn't know why, because obviously none of this is going on. So, Emma doesn't like her. Joe doesn't want to feed off of her. Michael's upset with her with his proposal. So she's just, compounding stress. Michael comes home late. He smells like smoke. Where have you been? I was working, because it's a surprise. So because he's trying to cover up the surprise party for her. So he's lying, saying he was working. Have you been smoking? No, I haven't been smoking. So now on top of everything, he's lying to her, but he's lying to her in the in the spirit of a surprise party. She comes home. It's now all in her head that he's been hanging out with Marlene. Peyton's been putting in her head that affairs going on. So now she comes home. She's pissed, built up, yelling at him, screams at him that he's sleeping with Marlene. And then she rounds the corner and Marlene and everyone's there for a birthday party, including
surprise.
Peyton. Yes. And now she looks crazy and it's embarrassing. And Peyton has now kind of, devolved Claire into this big puddle of mess.
Yes.
Then cut to Marlene. She's looking at some new listings and she sees the Mott's house and she's like, oh, Dr. Mott's house still on the market. And then she sees this wind chime, which she had seen put on Claire's house. And she's like, where did that ugly thing come from? And she's like, oh, I put it up. Like Peyton's like, I put it up. So she knows that that's a Peyton thing, this wind chime. So she looks at Dr. Mott's house. She sees this wind chime. She's like, this is weird. So she goes and she kind of looks up the listing, kind of trying to learn more about it. She looks through old newspapers. She sees a thing of Dr. Mott's funeral, and she sees his widow is Peyton. So now she's trying to rush to Claire's house, call Claire. Claire has gone to her greenhouse place to get some seedlings for the greenhouse that she built in her yard. She calls the house. Peyton answers. Oh, Claire's not here right now. And, Julianne Moore says something, rude to her, hangs up. She's trying to rush to get there. She finally gets there. She's looking around for Claire. She can't find her. She calls Peyton Mrs. Mott. So now Peyton knows that Julianne Moore knows, and her plan is going to blow up. And she's like, oh, Claire's out at the greenhouse, because we saw Peyton set up the greenhouse so that the glass will crash and kill Claire the next time she goes in there.
Yeah.
So it's all set up to kill Claire. But now that she knows, Julianne Moore knows, she sends her out there. She goes in, the glass falls on her. Julianne Moore is killed.
Yes.
And
a nice bloody depiction on the floor.
Yes.
Well, I must
yes.
say.
And this just how she's eating this apple, Peyton, just slicing this apple, eating it with the knife in her mouth.
Anybody
watching
that eats an apple with a knife and just puts the knife in the mouth.
Yeah.
Unhinged behavior.
Yes.
Eat an apple properly. Bite
Right?
the apple.
Yes. Like, we already know this lady is nuts, but just let's do a little bit more to just illustrate that. So then she perfectly
Unless you've got no
it.
teeth.
Right.
Or really weak teeth, bite the apple.
Yes, exactly. So she plans it out. So I'm going to take Joe for a walk right now. So she makes sure she's not there when Claire comes home.
Yes.
And before that, we see her empty all of Claire's asthma inhalers.
Yes, all the inhalers.
Yeah, she knows we're all in junk drawers, all her extra ones hidden around the house. We see her messing them up and releasing all of the medicine out of them and putting them back. So it's not so much just to take them away so they're not there. The fact that she goes through the effort of giving Claire that, like, oh, it's here, and then she goes to take it. And yes. It's twisted, because she could just take them away.
It's horrific.
She could just throw them away, but no, she goes through the effort of emptying them and putting them back.
This is what I mean. This is the level of completely unhinged behavior we're dealing with from Peyton, and this all obviously builds to this climax. And
yes, so
Claire ends up having a very, very serious asthma attack
because she comes home. She finds Marlene in the greenhouse and drops her purse that has her inhaler. So she runs inside. She tries to call 911, but her breath is she can't get through. So she tries to check for all her inhalers. None of them work. And then she sees the one in her purse. She tries to go out and she passes out on the porch. And just how she looks, just like breathing like a goldfish out of
it's a really horrible shot, actually, of the movie. From this distance away, just to see this flop of a body.
Yes, and then just see her, like, her back hunching with these labored few breaths, her face purple, like. They get to her in time. She goes to the hospital. The police find Marlene's body. It's a whole kind of crazy thing. So now she's in the hospital, and we see Solomon outside in the rain on his bike, just keeping guard of her hospital room. And so this is the night we see Michael boarding up the greenhouse. He's all upset in the rain. Obviously, Marlene was his best friend. He comes back into the house. Oh, Michael, let's get you out of these wet clothes. And her nightgown's all soaked through. We can see, like, everything.
No, we can. Yes, it's very intense.
Right. So they're alone in the house. Claire's not there. He's got his shirt off. She's drying him off with a towel. And then he says the thing, there's only one woman for me. And she thinks it's her. And so she just walks away smiling, like, I've got him. And we're just like, lady.
No.
Right? So Claire comes home. And obviously she's like, honey, I think we should just go away with the kids. No, Peyton. I just need to get away from here. I feel like all these strange things started happening when she came around. It's like, what, you don't trust her? And she's like, oh, I do. But then I don't. Like, I don't know. I think we just need to get away. without her, kind of thing.
She's not going to allow that to happen.
Yes. So as they're kind of making these plans to just go somewhere away, she decides to she reads something weird about kind of like, what happened to Marlene. So she goes to Marlene's real estate office, talks to her assistant. What was she doing the day that she left here? Oh, she was looking at these listings. She sees Dr. Mott's listings. And when she comes home from the hospital, she sees that Peyton put like this turtle border in the nursery. And she's like, why did you?
It's very unpleasant, actually.
It doesn't look good
at all.
And she's like, where did this come from? And Michael's like, oh, Peyton did it as a surprise. We thought you'd like it. And she's like, well, I just wish you kind of would have asked me. So she knows, obviously she sees Dr. Mott's listing. She knows that. So she goes there. She walks around, she sees the baby's nursery, and she sees that same turtle border, and she sees, and then the real estate guy's like, oh, that's a funny looking toy. And she's like, it's a breast pump. So we know all those 6 months she was continuously pumping to keep her breast milk up. So that's how she's able to feed Joe. So she puts it all together. She comes home. It's all nice and happy. They're setting the table for dinner. I wonder where Claire is. Oh, she's late tonight, kind of thing. And immediately Claire walks in and punches Peyton over the table. And you're like, yeah. And Michael's like,
it's very, very satisfying.
Yes. And Michael's reaction isn't even as harsh as you think it would be. He's still kind of like, there must be a reason behind this, but Claire, what's going on?
Yeah. He's like, I trust you,
but damn,
wife. But this is a bit, crazy right now. What's going on?
I trust you, babe, but damn. And so she's like, she's Dr. Mott's widow, Michael. And they're like, yeah. So,
and then he's literally like, excuse me.
Yeah, right? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Peyton, get out.
Yes.
And then it's very much a kind of Peyton, get out. And it's Peyton, no, don't go and get your things.
Well,
get out.
What did she say? What did she say? I'm just going to go and get my baby. I'm gonna go get my things. And
she does say that,
and she's like,
and at this point he is again. Excuse me.
Yeah.
No. Get out of my house.
Yes, we'll send your things.
That does not include my baby.
Yes. So they think they've gotten rid of her, but no, she's snuck back in. She comes back.
It gets violent. This is when it turns into a bit of a slasher movie.
Yes, she attacks Michael.
For the last little bit.
Yeah, she attacks Michael. In the basement. She has him.
His legs.
She hits him. He falls down the stairs, breaks his legs, so he can't move. So she goes back. She's in the house. So now it's on Claire. She got to do it. So Claire goes.
A call's coming from inside the house.
Yes. So her and Peyton get into it. I think she knocks out Claire. Claire goes up, Peyton goes upstairs to get Emma. She's like, come on, Emma, you and me and Joe, we're going to go now. I'm your mommy now. And that's where you're talking about the I'm your mommy now thing. But Emma's like, you're not my mommy. Like runs away. She locks Peyton in the baby's room, and she grabs Joe and she goes and hides him. So they go and hide. We see them hide in this closet. Peyton has a bit
clever from Emma, I must say, in this whole scene to do a bit of manipulation herself into where exactly she's taken Joe. There was one particular shot where it was quite obvious that the actress playing Emma was carrying a baby doll, but that's beside the point.
Yes, exactly. We got the point. And Emma knows also, I might mention that she knows Solomon has been following because she saw him in the car. So she knows Solomon's taking care of them, watching out. So she goes and she takes the baby in the closet. Peyton gets her Jack Nicholson moment, breaks the door.
Really does at this point.
She doesn't
Jack
look
Nicholson,
through it.
Michael Myers, all the other, door beaters.
Yes, because I think she has like a fire poker, and that's what she's using as her weapon of choice. She breaks the door, she unlocks it. She goes to the closet where we saw Emma go with the baby because she hears the crying, and Emma's not there. She put the baby monitor there. Smart Emma.
Very clever. Very clever.
She ends up going into the attic, and Emma or Peyton follows them up there. And who is there? getting to hold the baby, because we established that, Solomon shouldn't be holding the baby,
Yes.
but now who's holding Joe and trying to get Emma out the window in the attic? It's Solomon.
It's because
saving the
ultimately,
day.
would you not just trust him more than most people to
Exactly.
hold the baby?
Yes. And so Peyton's hitting him with the fire poker. He's shielding the baby, blocking the hits. And then here comes Claire to kind of help out as well. So then they
Yeah.
kind of get in a huge scuffle in this whole thing. She's trusting Solomon to take care of her children while she handles this business. And then she ultimately pushes Peyton out the window. And, this whole kind of, I think, Americana imagery of Peyton dying on a
the
white picket fence that Solomon built.
That Solomon built, the white picket fence that Solomon, it all comes round in a very, very fun little way for Peyton, doesn't it? And this is what I was saying before. I wanted maybe a little more violence to the movie, to see Peyton actually impaled on one of the spokes of the picket fence.
Yeah.
But we don't get necessarily that. But again, we get a nice, nasty little bloodied body at the bottom for our psychological thriller. We need this kind of stuff in these movies. They don't work the same unless we get some sort of graphic violence.
Because even with Marlene, like we see the glass fall on her, but we don't really see anything impale her, and then we just kind of see her laying with the blood on her face. Kind of at the.
I was expecting, full shard of glass through the face and things.
Something, but we didn't quite get that deep into the gore of it all. But that is the hand that rocks the cradle.
I mean, that is how the movie ends as well. The movie literally ends with Peyton being impaled, or not quite impaled, on a white picket fence.
Yes.
And
Claire,
we're led to assume that
putting all her trust in Solomon.
Yeah, the family go on as as normal, but ultimately they're probably going to have to move for trauma reasons.
I mean,
I would probably have to move.
that greenhouse and all that kind of thing.
It wouldn't be very nice. Maybe not move too far away so Solomon can still
come
work there.
Yes.
But a great movie.
Okay.
I felt so into this movie. It's exactly what you promised, basically.
Okay.
You knew I would like this movie.
Yeah.
And I did like it as you knew I would.
Yay.
I'm not lying when I say I might have wanted a little more gore from the movie.
Okay.
I might have wanted a little more violence from the movie, definitely. And the depiction of Solomon isn't entirely phenomenal all the time, I don't personally feel, but
the intentions were
the intention
you feel
is,
the intentions were
good. The intention is good. The intention is positive, definitely. So I can look past that and see it for what it is trying to be, and that's absolutely fine. A wonderful movie, really good. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Would watch it again, definitely. Again, in that same vein of the movies we've mentioned, I think that the Michael Douglas erotic thrillers, The Crush, The Stepfather, this kind of era of familial thriller, I suppose, twisted familial thriller.
Yeah.
It works really, really well. Applause, a great amount of applause for the hand that rocks the cradle, Jeannine. Thoroughly enjoyed it there. Are we having another bit of genre whiplash for next week?
I mean, a little bit. It is Karina next week, so a little bit more serious. A period film, a black nanny in the 1950s to a white family, a widower played by Ray Liotta and his young daughter, who doesn't speak because of the loss of her mother, and kind of Whoopi Goldberg kind of coming in and bringing the daughter and this family kind of back to life. So that kind of, emotional, feel good, but also the 1950s and black and white people. Things.
Yes, black and white people thing. We can imagine. We can imagine what's going on there.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that one as well, though, I must say. I think it's going to be powerful, I would imagine. Kind of emotional, but
Yeah, a
then
little bit funny as well because it's Whoopi Goldberg, so she gets to kind of
oh
play some
yeah,
comedic aspects, when she's trying to kind of bring the daughter out a little bit out of her kind of, sad shell. Yeah, so we get a little bit of comedy, but it's fairly dramatic, kinda, emotional, feel good kinda movie, so
good.
a mix
Good.
of things, yeah.
I like that. I like that. Well, that is what's coming next week on Morgan Hasn't Seen. Of course, this is not the only show we have on the It's a Wonderful podcast feed. The main show, celebrating old movies every week, is there every Friday. Vive la France on
Yeah.
there throughout May, celebrating old French movies all month long. Do subscribe wherever you are listening to this episode. On all major podcast platforms. It is, of course, also our special video podcast episode for the month.
Yes.
So you can very much watch this, do the waves, of course. You can very much watch this on the It's Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel as well. Subscribe, ding your notification bells over here or there, depending on where you are actually listening. Leave your comments, rates, reviews, all that fun stuff. Two, if you want to support us on Patreon or donate in any way, there are links in the description to do that. Anything else is the social medias, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you can, of course, also find us on the various social media for, if nothing else, the podcast questions, which we very much enjoy reading people's answers to every single week on the main show, typically, is where we do that. But you can find us on the app formerly known as Twitter and on Blue Sky at It's a Wonderful One. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at the Purple Don with a 3 instead of the E in the because Jeannine.
3 is a magic number.
On Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at the Purple Don. All your cradles are where?
You can find me at Jeannine Devine _. On Twitter, Jeannine Devine. On Instagram. You threw me off and laughing at my cradling.
You were doing a strange cradle thing. We know we can find you at Jeannine Devine on Instagram,
TikTok, and Blue Sky. Thank you. If you want to get any merch for any of our shows, just check the description for the link or search G9 Design on tpublic.com. And if you want to purchase any of my art in print form, you can find that at my Big Cartel shop, g9design.bigcartel.com.
Now, I think it's only reasonable, given that Michael looks like Michael McDonald, to have Michael McDonald count us out for today's episode. So please, Michael, take it away.
You do this to me, ain't you? Keep forget things will never be the same again.
Bye.